So, welcome everyone to this session on Ramayan. We are continuing our discussions of seeing Valmiki Ramayan. We saw on Sunday how in Ayodhya Kanda, Mantra was successfully trying to tweak her way into the brains and minds of Kaikeyi. So, today we will see the story henceforward. Thank you for joining, taking out your precious time today. I hope, like the other sessions, these sessions would be also fruitful for us to learn the great glories of Valmiki Ramayana. So, without waiting further, let's sing the Mangalacharan, and after the Mangalacharan, the lecture would start. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Udapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sagana Raghunatha Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीन बंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कवितां शाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकि कोकिलम् वाल्मीकेर्मुनिसिंहस्य कविता वनचारिणा शृण्वन् रामकथानाथं को न याति परमां गतिम् वेदवेद्ये परे पुंसि जते दाशरथात्मजे वेद प्राचेतसादासीत् साक्षात् रामायणात्मना अंजनानंदनं वीरं जानकी शोकनाशनं कपीशमक्षहन्तारं वन्दे लंका भयङ्करम् मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियां बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूर्धमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि आञ्जनेयमतिपाटलानां काञ्चनाद्रिकमनीयविग्रहं पारिजाततरुमूलवासिनं भावयामि भवमानन्दनम् सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जी की जय. So I hope everybody is staying safe in their houses. The lockdowns are in its place, and I hope everybody is doing well, healthily, mentally, physically, and also spiritually. The entire existence of human life is to ensure that at every given point of time, we understand that there are a lot of miseries in this planet Earth. There are so many miseries of birth. Even if miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease is solved, it is difficult for us to move forward because there are miseries of the mind, miseries due to anger, miseries due to hunger, miseries on the physical plane. So there are miseries galore. There are miseries unlimited, which makes it very difficult for us to progressively go forward in Krishna consciousness. However, the only elixir, the only sweet nectar that enables us to cross over this material ocean is to always be dipped in the nectarian ambrosial waters of the scriptures. These scriptures, which describe the very essence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, or his Purna Avatar, Sri Lord Ramchandra, along with his associates and his closest of devotees like Mother Sita, Hanuman, and the Vanaras, and the Ayodhya Vasis, and his father, his mother, Dasharatha, Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra. These are the wonderful pastimes which makes us afloat, which makes us keep connected to the very life and soul while living in this world. What we these pastimes does, it nourishes the soul with excellent katha, which gives us hope, which gives us a great sense of learning, which also gives us a great way of keeping connected with the times that have gone by, where our ancestors had passed their times not looking at TVs and news feeds and Twitters and social media. In fact, they took the media which was available to them socially to other people. The media of Ramayana, the media of Mahabharata, these great itihasas were spoken far and wide. So, with that humble attempt, we are also trying to walk in those paths of those great personalities. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that one should walk along the footsteps already made, the footprints which are already made by great devotees previously. Mahajanasya gatasya yena pantha. Pantha means the path. The path, the beaten down path which has been made by the Mahajanas. Our only role is to walk on the same path. Because what do you get when you walk on those same path? When you walk on that path, what we get at the end is Krishna, his divine abode of Vrindavan, his divine abode of Ayodhya. We get Sri Lord Ramchandra in our hearts, and that is the greatest boon that one can get. So, sequentially, over the many weeks, we are trying to see very sequentially at the same point of time in depth. Ramayana, we have successfully completed Uttarakanda and Balakanda, and in that we have also progressed to Ayodhya Kanda, where we are seeing the pastimes of Ayodhya Kanda, where the 7,000 verses written by Valmiki in his magnum opus poem called as Ramayana, the emotions are at its peak. The emotions are galore in nature. There are plethora of events which happen at a very limited point of time. And these are very great pastimes that we hear. So without further ado, let us do a quick recap of where we left off. We left off at the place when Manthara watches from the rooftop that there are great celebrations which are happening in Ayodhya, and these celebrations are due to the one single cause, which is that Lord Ramchandra is getting coronated. She cannot manage this happy moment. She cannot see Kausalya being the prima facie queen of Ayodhya and Kosala kingdom. She storms inside the chambers of Kaikeyi. And what does she address? She addresses as Uttishta Mudhe. Oh fool, you are sleeping here, you get up. This is the way a maid addresses the queen. Now, it might be very interesting to understand how come a maid who is actually a maid servant call out to a queen like this. So there is some back history given to this personality of Mantra. And what is that back history, and what were the conversations, and what happened after the conversations, we will see today. We will continue this class tomorrow and the day after, being Saturday and Sunday. We will have two classes each, morning and evening. And like that, we will have four classes in the next 2 days. So without further ado, the mantra's background is given very beautifully by one of the Alvars. It is said that Mantra was such a capable lady that she could pick up a fight. Being in one place, she could pick up a fight all around the world. She will be in one house, but she will speak about the pastimes and the fights of 10 other houses. And because of her, people will fight. This was her description given by Valmiki. Many other alvars also mention why she had such a great animosity against Ramachandra, because it is very important that we have to see the details of the villain of the story. In a Bollywood story, just like the introduction of the hero is taken quite a long time, where when a screeching BMW comes and stops, the door opens and the hero puts his shining shoes outside and the camera pans itself, and there are some back histories shown of the hero, that how he became the hero, and that becomes the climax and that gets the claps. Similarly, the villain of the story, though it is Ravana, in Ayodhya Kanda, one of the villain played by this story is Mantra herself. So there has to be some back history given of why she has this villainous attitude, why she is having this animosity, why she is having this enviousness towards Rama. There are two previous histories given of Mantra. One of the previous histories mention about how she was in the heavenly kingdoms, a great Apsara, but she was sent to Mother Earth especially to do this pastime, where to goad Ramachandra to go to the forest and kill Ravana, which was the necessity of the Devas. So Saraswati herself gave her the boon that she will be able to speak in such a manner that others would not be able to refute. So she used that benefit given by Mother Saraswati for an ill effect, which is to send Rama, but actually it is a good effect because it will kill Ravana. So that is one backstory given. Now, what about the animosity and the enviousness? It is said that Mantra, when she used to walk, she used to look very peculiar. What is her peculiarity? She has got a hunch on her back. So she used to bend down a little and she used to have a hump on her back and she used to walk slowly. But if anybody saw her from a distance, people could see two hunches, say the great Alvar, Tirumaishi Alvar. He says that if anybody saw Mantra from far, you could see as if a Bactrian camel is coming from the other side. What is a Bactrian camel? If you have gone to the desert or if you have watched videos of the desert, there is a camel, and the camel has a hump on its back. Generally, it is said that when the camel is going for far distances, it stores all the body fat and energy and all the food articles on the hump of the camel, and it uses it slowly one by one. But there are certain Arabian camels which have two humps. So the rider sits in between the two humps. There is one hump near the back and one hump near the front. So those camels are called as Bactrian camels. But here Mantra is having only one hunch. But why is the Alvar calling her a Bactrian camel? The reason is, back in those days, because she was the primary maid servant of Kaikeyi, one of the most favorite queens of Dasharatha, what she did was that she used to decorate herself and she used to have her hair tied up in a bun. Back in those days, even up to 30, 40 years before, many actresses and many women used to keep their hair in a bun, and that used to be the style. Now the hair is in a fun. We do not know how they keep. But back in those days, they used to keep the hair in a bun, and the Alvar says around the hair there is a beautiful garland of different kinds of flowers which is surrounding the hair or the braid, and they have very fresh flowers that she has kept on her hair. And around the fresh flowers, because the flowers are full of nectar, the bees are moving here and there around her hair. So when she walks slowly, hunched back with a hump, and the bees are revolving around her, she sometimes used to pass by the military barracks of Kosala kingdom, where Lord Ramchandra used to do archery practice. Like I mentioned in the previous class, that sometimes young children would like to imitate their parents. Girls, especially, when they see their mother cook with different vessels, they also pull the sari and they say they also want to cook. But because they are very young and they cannot start the process of cooking, what do parents do? They give a imitation cooking set. The big cooker will be a very small cooker. The big vessels will be small vessels. The real vegetables will be replaced by small plastic vegetables. But the preparation will be just the same. The little child will also do all those activities just like how the mother is cooking in the house. And this gives, and finally, she will also offer the food to Krishna and she will tell mother, how does it taste? You tell me. Actually, there will be nothing in those small dishes because it's made of either plastic or, but the intention is there, and the mother would pick up that false sambar or that false rice that the kid has made and eat it and say it will be very tasty. And that gives a lot of appreciation and enthusiasm to the child. So this is how children learn from their parents. Children learn from from their parents and get influenced. Similarly, Lord Ramchandra used to also practice weaponry, which was taught by Vashishta, which was taught in a way that he could learn. And what he used to do, that he used to practice with his mud balls this great science of archery. And when Mantra used to cross by at that time across his place, then he used to see that her hunch was becoming an impediment for her to walk. And Ramachandra, who is the personified supreme personality of Godhead, he wanted to ensure the miseries go away. So he used to take his arrow, put some small mud balls, not the real arrow, but a small mud ball arrow, and he used to shoot at the hump of Mantra. When that small featherly mud ball used to touch the dead matter hump which is on her back, it used to give her a little tickle. And when it used to give a little tickle, she used to become erect. She used to stand erect. And when she used to stand erect, the bumblebees on top of her hair used to fly away. And sometimes it will come in front of her face and she will wipe it up like this and she will stand erect. And when she stood erect, the hump would go away and she will feel little happy because the hump used to give pain. Now that the hump goes away, but afterwards it again used to come and she will again droop down. Again Ramchandra will hit the mud pack, again it will cause a tickle, again she will stand up, and this pastime used to go and she used to get this pleasure of the hump and the pain going away. Symbolically, Lord Ramchandra is indicating that if you fall at my feet and surrender unto me, I will ensure that all the karmas that you have as a hump on your back, I will take it away. But poor Mantra, she used to think that she is becoming the point of embarrassment in front of everyone else. And she thinks that Ramchandra, you are actually embarrassing me in front of everyone, so I will take the revenge. She plans on that day that I have a great animosity against Rama because he is shooting mud packs at me. This is the great animosity that mantra derives. In fact, there is a beautiful verse that the Alvar says. What does the Alvar say? That I bow down and I pay obeisances to that person who shot the mud packs, the mud arrows filled with mud balls on mantra, who is none other than Govinda. Now you might be wondering, why did Alvar commit a mistake? Who is the one who is shooting the arrows? Lord Ramchandra. But what is the name he is actually taking? He is saying, I bow down to that personality who shot the arrows filled with mud balls on Govinda. Now the commentators and other acharyas who came in the disciplic succession, they were thinking that why Govinda has been mentioned. Maybe it was a slip of the tongue. Maybe the Acharya was very favorite of Krishna. But instead of saying Rama, he said Govinda. But that is not the truth. In the heights of spiritual ecstasy, one does not make mistakes. one ensures that the truth is spoken correctly. So, how do we explain that the mud balls which were actually shot at Mantra is Govinda, none other than Krishna? It is said very beautifully by our acharyas that the explanation given is when a personality has all impeccable character, a character far excellence that nobody can think about, and when the other personality has all mistakes, then a comparison is required in such a way that the person who is of impeccable character, if he has a small mistake, it should be considered negligible. So in this case, if you look at it, Rama's CV or resume was impeccable in nature. Nobody could find a fault in Rama's character. In fact, everybody who came in touch with Lord Ramchandra always had only one opinion, that he walks on the path of Dharma. He is the epitome of Dharma Rakshaka, one who protects Dharma. So there can be nothing wrong with Ramachandra. On the other hand, Krishna's pastimes, though whatever he speaks, that is the Dharma. However, from a world material point of view, many people say Krishna spoke lies. Krishna stole the garments of the gopis. Krishna stole the butter. Krishna is chitchor. He stole the hearts of the devotees. Krishna is very naughty. In fact, Krishna's resume or CV has many, 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 many qualities which many other people think that he was a very notorious and naughty in nature. That's why Srila Prabhupada sometimes he writes naughty Krishna. So he says that when this personality, Lord Ramchandra, has an impeccable nature, and there is one small naughtiness that he has shown, and in the whole time of his lifetime, there is nobody who has shown this naughtiness. But whereas on the other hand, Krishna or Govinda, he has shown all kind of naughtiness and all kind of CVs and resumes are incorrect. Let us transfer this FIR from Ramachandra to Krishna and let us give it to him, saying that sometimes it is better to pass on just to keep the clean chit of Ramachandra as it is. So, in the spiritual ecstasy, the Acharya said that I bow down to that personality whose has shot the mud filled arrows on the hunchback called Mantra, and that person is none other than Govinda. Of course, from a Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, this is also correct because though the Sri Sampradaya Acharyas mention about Govinda, for us it is much more easier because Prabhupada has opened up the books and told us very clearly Sarva Karana Karanam. Govinda, he is the cause of all causes. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And Lord Ramchandra, he appears as one of the Purna avatars, whereas the source of all incarnations is none other than Krishna and Krishna himself. So this is very beautifully explained in one side story, which comes in I think it comes in Mahabharata or it comes in somewhere in one of the Puranas, where a misjudgment is spoken about. I do not know the place where this is referred, but I heard it in one of the lectures. So there is a misjudgment sometimes given by certain people where they do not take into account the right person who has committed the mistake. Just like here, Rama is the one seemingly he committed the mistake of shooting the mud packs, but which is taken as an animosity way by Mantra, whereas the FIR is passed on to Govinda. An example comes of a king who had to solve a very peculiar case. What was the case? There was once a family who was extending their compound wall, and they were building their compound wall. And while they were building their wall, boundary of their house, a part of the wall had broken and they wanted to repair it. So, what did they do? They got some bricks, they got some cement, they put the bricks and the cement on top of each other, and they built this wall over the course of the day. And at the end of the night, this wall was still wet. This wall was not proper. This wall had a lot of wetness and it was not pakka. It had not dried up to become a strong concrete wall. But nevertheless, they thought that the night has come. Tomorrow morning, when the sun shines, the wall will become a concrete wall. So they left it as it is and they went to sleep inside their house. That night, there was a thief, a burglar, who was by profession, his, his profession was to steal from the houses. On that day, he was chased by some policemen and he ran so fast and he wanted to somehow hide behind the bushes and escape from the policemen. And he saw this house and this wall and there were bushes in front of it. He went behind those bushes and he was so tired after running so much that he leaned against this wall, just like I'm sitting here. I'm leaning against this wall. He also leaned against the wall because the wall was wet and it was not the concrete wall and it was in the darkness of the night. He did not know it was wet. As soon as he leaned on the wall, all the bricks and the cements fell on top of him and it created a great noise. When the noise was created, the lights came on and the other neighbors, they came in and they saw this person lying down, tired from running, and he was amongst the rubles which was there of the wall. Immediately everybody understood he is a thief. They caught him and took him to the king. And the king said, now you are going to be punished because you are a thief. Because of the wet wall, we got the possession of your loot, and also we were successful in catching you. The thief said, wait, I have got a petition to make. He said, what is the petition? He said, the petition is, it is not my fault. My profession is to do burglary. And the king was not very intelligent. So he said, my profession is burglary. And I was just leaning against a wall. It is a mistake of the owner. He did not put a signboard on the wall which said that it is a wet wall. So king said, oh, is it? Then bring the owner. Then the owner of the house who made the compound wall was called and he was asked, why did you not put the placard on top of the wall saying that it is a wet wall? He said, look, it is not my job. I actually gave it to the contractor. It was the contractor's job to do this. So he said, call the contractor. The contractor came. He said, look, I did everything correct. I know that the wall would have become strong by 2-3 hours, but it took 7 hours. So seems like the mason who worked on this wall, he was not doing the right job. So I think the blame should go to the mason. King said, bring the mason. The mason who builds architects and walls and everything, he came and the mason was asked, why you did not do this properly? Why the wall collapsed? He said, I have made so many walls across the nation. None of them have collapsed, but this one collapsed because I was mixing the cement in a proper pot. But seems like the pot was improper. The mud pot which was given to me was improper shape, due to which the cement did not mix properly. So I think the potter is done the mistake. Then the king said, bring the potter who made the mud pots to make the cement. The potter came and the potter was asked, why you did not do this job properly? Why the pots were not made? He said, no, sir, I every day put the clay and make a proper pot. But when I was making this pot, one lady with clothes, wet clothes, she just walked by me and she was a servant lady. Looking at her beauty, I actually misguided the pot and one of the pots became a little oblong, due to which that pot did not come out rightly. So he said, I think that lady, if she would have not walked, then I would have not got this pot incorrect and this mishap would have not happened. King said, bring the lady. The lady came. Now everybody was watching. It is going on like Hanuman's tale. One person is calling another, another is calling. The lady also came. And he said, why were you walking from left to right with wet clothes on that day in front of the potter? She said, look, I am not supposed to go at 8:45 a.m. when the potter saw me. I was supposed to go at 8 a.m. but the washerman gave me the wet clothes at the wrong time. So hence it is the problem of the washerman. So the washerman came, the washerman was called, and he said, now you tell me why you gave the clothes at the wrong time. And the watchman said, look, I every day go to the pond and I wash the clothes very clearly. And there is a washing stone on top of it where I wash my clothes. When I went this morning, there was a Mauna sannyasi, one who is dumb, who cannot speak. He was sitting and meditating. So it took me some time to remove him from the stone. And then the king said, bring that sannyasi here. And the sannyasi was asked, why were you sitting on the stone? Because he was a dumb sannyasi. He could not pass the blame to anybody else. So the king said, because you are the Mauna sannyasi, you did not move. The washerman became late, due to which the lady walked, due to which pot became wrong, due to which the cement was incorrect, due to which the mason got the wall wrong, contractor became wrong, and hence the placard was not put up. Hence the thief fell down in the rubble. So all the blame of the stealing comes to you, O sannyasi. This is how passing the blame happens. But this is an improper judgment. But I'm not trying to say that the acharyas made the improper judgment. But here in this case, Lord Ramchandra, though he has an impeccable character, this blame has been passed on to Govinda because it doesn't suit well to Ramchandra's profile that he has committed a mistake. So such is the animosity, but where she, Mantra, takes it very gravely that someone has did this to her, and she goes inside the chambers of Kaikei and she shouts Uttishta Mude, and she gave all the reasons which we saw in the earlier class that why Rama has to go to Bharata has to win the kingdom and Rama has to go to the forest. Kaikei asks very clearly, how is this possible? How can I actually do this? How can I enable this to be even um, thought about? I cannot even think about this. And Mantra says, why do you think so? Because then Kaikei says most beautiful words about Lord Ramchandra. Kaikei says, he is the one who actually reduced the anger of Parashurama. Don't you find him the most beautiful? Mantra says, no. Then Kaikei says another verse. He says, out of Bharata, Rama, Lakshmana, and Shatrughna, it is undoubtedly true that anybody who sees the four brothers, first the person will like Lord Ramchandra. Don't you think so, Mantra? Mantra says, no. Don't you think even more than Bharata, I love Lord Ramchandra? Have you not seen so? Mantra says again, no. Don't you think that Lord Ramchandra is the apple of the eye of the Kosala kingdom? How can you think so bad about her? Look at Kaikeyi. She is glorifying Lord Ramchandra in such a way that she believes that he is the correct heir apparent who should get onto the kingdom. And then she even says that I don't find any difference between Rama and Bharata. But at that time, Mantra says the entire episode of how Dasharatha is trying to eliminate Kaikeyi, and Kaikeyi's mind changes. What this implies is that Asat Sangat Tyaga Yahi Vaishnav Achar, this great instruction given by Rupa Goswami and given by our Acharyas, right, is very, very important, that we should avoid the association of scrupulous men and women who have intentions only to twist the material world to give us anger, envy, pride, ego, which is going to keep us away from Krishna. So here also the example is that because Kaikeyi had good intentions, but she was with a scrupulous or a duplicit women like Mantra, her mind also started changing. In fact, when her mind changed, Kaikeyi says a very beautiful verse where she mentions that, O Mantra, you are one of the best of the hunchbacks. In fact, you are a Hitaishini. Hitaishini means you are the one of the best well-wishers of mine. Look at the transformation that happens. A person who was glorifying Lord Ramchandra in a second is now glorifying Mantra, that you opened my eyes. She's saying you are like my spiritual master who did the removal of darkness from the eyes. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Kaikeyi is saying this to Mantra, all false, but she is saying. But in fact, she says, now I see the misfortune which is going to hit me because my right eye is blinking. Now, this is a very beautiful science. As we spoke about in the Balakanda, we spoke about Nimitta and we talk about Shakunam. This is like a Nimitta. And even in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, Nimittani. He says that I see all the omens which are not good. So, Nimitta Shastra is a great Shastra where, as per Samudrika Shastra, which is also a sign of the body languages, which comes at different point of time. So, Kaikeyi says that my right eye is blinking. Now, at many places, Valmiki gives this beautiful blinking of the eye example. And based on this blinking of the eye, he mentions great pastimes that we can actually foresee in the future. There is one such mention which we'll see in Kishkinda Kanda when we come, where Ramachandra and Sugriva is making a friendship pact, a pact which they say that Sugriva promises to help Lord Ramchandra to get Sita back, and Lord Ramchandra promises to get his Kishkinda kingdom back from Vali. At that time, the drone shot is that the fire is set up, both of them circumambulate the fire, they shake hands and they say, yes, we are friends. At that time, the drone shot goes up and it shows us the entire Kishkinda kingdom. And there is a verse by Valmiki which becomes the interval of Ramayana. If you are seeing it as a full movie, that is the interval scene of Ramayana where the kahani or the story twists and there comes a banner which says interval. But there is a shloka actually for that interval which has a meaning where the villains of the story are shown in a glimpse at a second, because interval means it's a turning point. So similarly here and there, and I'm going to tell the shloka and you will see how these turning points of Ramayan are being showcased in itself with the blinking of the eyes. So there is a great shloka which says, Sita Kapindra Shanada Charanam Rajiva Hemo Joplopamani Sugriva Rama Pranaya Prasange Vamani Netrani Samam Sfuranti. So here, Sita means Mother Sita. This is in Kishkinda Kanda, not in Ayodhya Kanda. So please keep that reference. I'm giving a reference of how the eyes blinking from Kishkinda Kanda, what Valmiki writes. Sita Kapindra, Kapi Indra, the king of the Vanaras. Who was the king of the Vanaras? Who was none other than Indra personified, who is none other than Vali. Sita Kapindra. Kapi Indra is Vali. Sita is Mother Sita. Shanadacharanam. Shanadacharanam means one who keeps on walking in the night. Who is that Rakshasa who keeps on walking in the night? None other than Ravana. So, what is the other meaning? If we leave all our activities and do only our activities in the night, we are actually Rakshasas. So, we should be very careful that our Rakshasa pravritti has to decrease and our morning pravrittis have to increase. Many times I am also culprit of it, but we keep trying our level best to come back to our Mangalarti culture. So we should always try to remove the Rakshasa pravritti and we should come into the Satguna and the Brahma Muhurta time. So Shanadacharanam, one who roams around in the night, who is none other than Ravana. Sita Kapindra Shanadacharanam. What happened to these three? Rajiva Hemo Jwalopamani. Now, all the three personalities, their eyes are being compared. Sita is having lotus-like eyes. Vali is having golden, Hema. Hema means golden. Golden yellow color eyes. Maybe he has not got contact lenses, but he's a monkey of golden color in nature, and hence he has golden eyes. And how are the eyes of Ravana? It is like Ujjwalopanani. It's like fire embers. All these three eyes. One is like lotus-like eyes, Karunyata, which is of Mother Sita. One is having yellow golden eyes of Vali, and one is having the eyes of fire. Sugriva Ramasya Pranaya Prasange. When Sugriva and Rama, they both are conversing and they made the pact between each other. Vamani netrani samam spuranti. Vamani, the left eye of all these three personalities, blinked samam, simultaneously. Blinked simultaneously. So what happened? Sita's left eye blinked, Vali's left eye blinked, and Ravana's left eye blinked. Now, what happens if left eye blinks? It is said that when a woman's left eye, when it blinks, now when we hear this, we immediately start becoming very cognizant. Is my left eye blinking? Don't worry. This is only happens for people who are following Shastras very nicely. We are yet to do that. So it doesn't generally manifest in people who are not following Vedic Shastras. Maybe it does for you guys, but for me, it doesn't happen because I have yet to follow Shastras properly. So generally, it says when the lady's left eye blink, it is supposed to be auspiciousness. And when the man's left eye blinks, it is supposed to be distress coming their way. So, because Rama and Sugriva got into a friendship pact, it is very clear that it is going to be auspiciousness for Sita because Ravana is going to be killed. And because Ravana is going to be killed, before that, Vali is going to be killed. That's why Vali and Ravana had their left eye blinking. What a beautiful way of stopping Ramayana at the interval, where it shows that what's going to come up next, but still in a very coded format. Our Bollywood always takes inspirations from such places. Hence, it is one of the greatest stories that you can say, and one of the greatest ways that you can read into verses. Why I am saying this verse is because Kaikeyi on the other side is saying, my right eye is blinking. That means if the left eye of Sita blinked, it was auspiciousness. That means for a woman, when the right eye blinks, it is inauspiciousness. So here she is saying that it is inauspicious for me. That means my Bharata is going to leave my kingdom. Actually, Acharya says no, it is going to be inauspicious because the apple of her eye, Rama, is going to go away. It is inauspicious because Gachata, her own husband, is going to pass away. So these are the inauspicious signs which a person has to understand very nicely. So Kaikeyi says, this is why I see my right eye blinking. Mantra, you have opened my eyes. You have opened my eyes. You are the greatest Hitaishini. When you walk like the Miss Universe 2020 model. You are the most beautiful. This is when happens when somebody makes you so um, comfortable with their praises that we forget the real qualities of that person. Sometimes they speak lies in the form of praise. So here Kaikeyi is saying all that you are the most beautiful maid servant that I ever have. You are the most beautiful person. And these all instructions that Kaikeyi gives, these all praises Kaikeyi gives to Mantra. So Kaikeyi says, but tell me one thing, how will I, how will I achieve this? How will I achieve this? How will I even say this to Dasharatha? He will not even agree with me. How should I say this? So Mantra says, it is very easy. She says a sloka from Ramayana. Yauto deva sure yuddhe varo dasharato dadat tausmaraya mahabhago so arto matvamati kramet. She says, King Dasharatha may offer you diamonds, pearls, golds, and various other precious stones. Do not care for them, but you should do one thing, Kaikeyi. Yau Tau. Tau means plural. There were two vows. What vows, Mantra? I never know about this, but what vows? How can you forget, Kaikeyi? Don't you remember the Shambarasura Yuddha? The battle which took place at Shambarasura? Shambarasura was fighting so ferociously that Dasharatha wanted to fight him. And at that time, his charioteer took a sick leave, extra leave he took, and there was no charioteer. And at that time, you became the charioteer of Dasharatha, and you rode the chariot nicely, and his axle wheel of the chariot broke. Don't you remember? Yeah, yeah, Mantra, I remember. What happened next? And then when the axle broke, you put the hand inside the axle and you kept moving the chariot and helped Dasharatha fight the battle, and he won the battle against Shambarasura. And because of which he became very happy and he said, Kaikeyi asked two boons from me. Don't you remember? Yeah, Mantra, it is coming back to me now. Tell me more. How do you know about it? Actually, when you came back and told this to Ashwapati, your father, I was standing behind the pillars and I was overhearing what you were saying. Hence, I remember that you have two boons. Such a cunning personality is Mantra. She overhears others' talks and goes and says it at the opportune moment and says the wrong things. Oh, Mantra, yeah. But what are the two boons that I should ask? Why are you worrying? You are the middle wife of Dasharatha. You should ask the two boons. But with the first boon, you should ask that Bharata should become the king. And with the second boon, you should ask that Rama goes for 14 years to the Dandakaranya forest. And when he goes away into the forest, it will ensure that we will have all auspiciousness reigning in. Then it was very difficult for Kaikeyi, but at the same time, she said, now I need a plan, Mantra. Tell me a plan that what I should do. She said, first thing you should do is remove all your Hyderabad pearls, which you have got it yesterday. Remove all the Zaveri Bazaar jewelry that you have got from Bombay. Remove all the greatest wealth that you have got. You take your hair, which is nicely combed, dissolve that hair. Take out the nose diamond studded nose ring and throw it away. And she says, one of the most inauspicious things to do. She says, take the earrings of yours outside and throw them away. Now, generally in the Vedic culture, the earrings of a woman protects her chastity. In fact, it is the emblem of chastity. In fact, it is seen that if a woman is wearing nice earrings and she is married, that protects the chastity of the husband as well. There is a great science to it. How do we know this? Because there are in certain pastimes where this is very explicitly mentioned. There is a great work called as um, Kirata Arjuniya, where there are shlokas where it mentions when there was a fight between Lord Shiva and Arjuna for the Pashupatra Astra in Mahabharata. Lord Shiva comes as Kirata, as one of the hunters, and they both see a boar and they shoot an arrow. Both their arrows hit the boar at the right time and both claim the kill. And the hunter says, I shot the arrow first. Arjuna says, no way, get lost. I shot the arrow first. Then they say, to claim the kill, let us have a fight. And they both fight ferociously. At that time, Arjuna says, oh, Kirata, please go back. If your wife has to have earrings on her ear, please go back. So there, the mention is there because as long as the woman has the earrings, then her husband is considered safe. There is another pastime which comes in Samudra Manthan. When the Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean happens, many things come out. Ratnas, Parijata tree, Lakshmi, Kamadenu, Amrita. Many things come out. And at that time, there is a great poison, Vishanu, which also comes out, which is called as Halahala poison. It's such a great poison. People are panicking. Who will take those poisons? And at that time, Lord Shiva agrees to drink the poison and he comes there and he takes the poison hala hala and starts to drink. Thinking something will happen to her husband, Uma or Parvati, she comes running from Kailasha and she holds his neck so that the poison doesn't go down. Hence, the poison stays in his neck and his neck becomes blue in color. That's why he's called as Neelakanta. Neela means blue, Kanta means the neck. Because he has got a bluish neck, he is called as Neelakanta. Neelakantam means peacock, which has a bluish neck. But the beauty of that poet is that he says the poison would have anyway gone down. It did not stay on the neck of Lord Shiva because Parvati held the neck. it actually stayed there because Parvati had her earrings on her ear. And due to her chastity, because she is one of the most chaste lady, Uma or Parvati, because she was chaste enough and her earrings were there on the ears, the poison could not even flow down the throat. So it is greatness of the chastity of Parvati. In our Vedic scriptures, women are greatly glorified. Again and again, the glorification of women is there in every page. We need not ulterior wise pick up placards and shout for equality, because there cannot be equality because they are at a higher pedestal. So when women are at a higher pedestal and they are glorified at every time due to her chastity, men get their power, the demigods get their power. It is the women's power that is which is actually there. We need not shout and advertise for separate equality for women. If it is, we need not even say that the Shastras do not have it, because the Shastras, time and time again, it showcases the greatness of women and their power and their role in the Vedic society. So, why I was saying is that it is these great earrings which were protecting, and Ramcharit Manas, taking a slight detour from Valmiki Ramayana, I will just like to mention Ramcharit Manas Tulsidas actually says maybe Kaikeyi knew what was going to hit her, because when she took out the earrings, she is going to lose her husband, which is true, which we'll see. So this great poets are there who mention these small snippets of information, and Valmiki Ramayana is pregnant with such informations. It's fully encapsulated into small verses. In fact, I would like to recite a verse which I heard in one of the lectures from the Sri Sampradayas. Very beautiful work by one of the poets called as Venkadadri Kavi. I just want to showcase this verse to you because many people today feel that the modern works are much greater, but that is because of the Western education that we have. We find the song of the albatross or a Shakespearean song or a poem or a sonnet written in French or some shairis which was written in the recent modern history are considered very great. But I just wanted to showcase the magnum opus works that our poets have done, the great activities our poets have done, the great shlokas that they have written. So I would like to recite a shloka. Please hear it carefully. And if you actually have the text, I will also share it with you in the group and personally after this lecture. What you can do is you should take this shloka and write it on a piece of paper. So after you write this on a piece of paper, you should take this paper and go next to a mirror, and you will see an opposite of this shloka. So that means when you have a shloka, when you go next to the mirror, you will see the reverse of this shloka. The reverse of this shloka will also be a shloka. So let's read one of the shlokas. It is called as Sagasa Bharataya Ibham Abhatha Manyu Mataya Sa Atra Madhyamaya Tape Potaya Adigatarasa Sagasa Bharataya. So what does this say? This meaning of this shloka says in the forward, when I read from right to left, Sagasa Bharataya Ibam Abhatha Manyumataya. The great land of Ayodhya is shining with glory of kingdom. It was obtained by Ibam Abhatha Manyumataya Bharataya. It was obtained by the middle one. Who is the middle queen? None other than Kaikeyi. So atra Madhyamaya. She is the Madhyamaya. She is the middle queen. Tape Potaya Adigata Rasa. She obtained the entire kingdom of Ayodhya, who was burning mad with anger. So this verse is showing that how the middle wife of Dasharatha, Kaikeyi, who got the kingdom to Bharata by burning with mad with anger. Sagasa Bharataya ibam abhata manyumataya sa atra madhyamaya tape potaya adigata rasa. Now what I will do is I will read this verse in reverse fashion. Sarat agadaya tapopeta ya mahayat matrasa yattamanyumata bhama bhayeta raba sagasa. I'll read it again. Sarat agadaya tapopetaya mahyamatrasa yatamanyumata bhama bhayeta raba sagasa. What does this mean? This means the slender waisted Satyabhama, who had the best of intellect and became possessed with anger. Again, anger is compared. Now, what is happening? The pastime has changed. The first pastime was Kaikeyi was burning mad with anger and she got the kingdom of Kosala. Here, when you read reverse, it is talking about Satyabhama. She was possessed with anger and quickly, with discrimination at the wrong done to her, she gave away in haste the Parijata tree given by Krishna to Rukmini. Look at the verse. It's the same words. And we all think palindromes are beautiful. These are the verses and the poets that they have written in our scriptures. If you read from right to left, it gives you Rama's stories. If you read from left to right, reverse, it gives you Krishna's stories. Can any modern English poems, if you put a mirror and read from reverse to top, it will look gibberish. It will look nonsense. But here, avatars change, pastimes change, depth changes, but the emotion remains the same, which is anger. So there is an anger comparison between the two avatars, and that is the beauty of these shlokas. This was written by not far away in the 16th century, 400 years back. It was written by a person called as Venkatadri Kavi, and this is called as Yadava Raghaviyam. He wrote some good 20 slokas, and every shloka is about Rama and Krishna's pastimes. And there is another verse which was in Raghava Pandaviyam, where if you read first, it will be about Lord Ramchandra. If you read in reverse, it will be about Pandavas. Such are the voluminous works that many acharyas in many sampradayas have written. So we should make it a point that we should read these scriptures. We should not keep them in the books and we should pass it on to our next generation. So that said, Mantra told Kaikeyi that you remove your earrings and take out the clothes, wear bad clothes, and go to the place which is called as Kopa Bhavanam. Kopa Bhavanam means a palace which is made for anger. This is not our Cheetah Camp or Bombay story, where if we have to get sad, it has to be in the same hall. If we have to become extremely happy, it has to be in the same hall. If we have to cry, it has to be in the same hall. If we have to jump up and down and do exercise, it has to be in the same hall because we have only one house, one hall, maximum one room or one kitchen. Back in those days, it was not like that. If you become angry, you go to Kopa Bhavanam. If you become sad, you go to Sad Bhavanam. If you become excellently happy, you go to a different palace. So there are different palaces for different emotions for one wife. So imagine the prosperity that Dasharatha used to have. So here she was sent to Kopa Bhavanam. Kopa Bhavanam means an anger palace. In that palace, everything will be black in color. Mourning will be there. Anger, the fires will be lit very brightly, and Kaikeyi had to spend her time there waiting for Dasharatha because he will come. She knows he will come running and he will come and ask what happened. So immediately she went there, she disheveled hair. She immediately went and she stayed herself in the Kopa Bhavan and she told, call Dasharatha here. And when Dasharatha came, Dasharatha immediately, for many years, he has not come to Kopa Bhavanam. He has created that palace, but he never entered. But when he entered, he could not find Kaikeyi anywhere. In fact, he saw many peacocks and parrots were there in the Kopa Bhavanam. The palace was having different peacocks, birds, and there were sounds of birds like cuckoos and others. There was good environment, but he could not find Kaikeyi in our palace. And then there were a lot of short hunchback maidservants. This hunchback mantra had got her assistants who were also hunchback, says Valmiki Ramayana. And there were Champaka and Ashoka trees. And there were many painted rooms with beautiful paintings. There were altars made of silvery gold. There were also trees which were yielding fruits in all seasons. There were mango trees, jackfruit trees, and there were beautiful seats which were made of ivory, silver, and gold. And many people were distributing food, snacks, drinks, juices, everything. It was looking very beautiful, and lot of maid servants were there. But nowhere he could see he could see Kaikeyi. At that time, the great king Dasharatha, Valmiki says, did this. ततो गृहगतो राजा कैकेयीं पर्यपुच्छत यथा पुरं विज्ञाय स्वार्थलिप्सुं पंडितां प्रतिहारी ततो वाच संत्रस्ता कुरुतज्जलीः देव देवदेवी भ्रुंक्रुद्धा क्रोधघररं बिबिद्रताम्. So there was a maid servant who came and said, there was a deer keeping, there was a doorkeeper. She came and folded her hands and said, "O Raja, O Dasharatha, if you are looking for your middle wife, Kaikeyi, I'm very fearful to say this, but she is sitting in Kopa Bhavanam. She is sitting in the anger palace." And then Dasharatha was thinking, why is she sitting in the anger palace? What did I do? What is the reason? He hurriedly went inside the anger palace. He saw that all the bangles, all the ornaments are strewn over the floor, and the curtains are black in color, very dim lit, depression lit room it was. There was nobody paying any attention, no maid servant. She was lying on the bed. She was not even looking at who came in. She was not even interested in greeting her own husband. She was lying down in the bed, not looking, with her hair full of dissolved. And Dasharatha started speaking. He understood that somebody had did something wrong to her. So in fact, this is where Dasharatha speaks about. Please listen carefully. This is where Dasharatha speaks about Cheetah Camp. Now you might be thinking why I am saying so. I am not saying. Valmiki Ramayana is saying. Ya Yavaddarvatam Chakram Tavati Veva Prachina Sindhu Sauvira Saurashtra Dakshinapataha. He says Saurashtra. A lot of Saurashtra people are there in Cheetah Camp. Maybe he spoke about that also. Vangamagada Matsya Samudra Koshika Kosala. He says, Kaikeyi, get up, tell me who did wrong to you. Was it somebody from this kingdom? Or was it somebody from different jurisdictions of my kingdom? And he says his kingdom, that my jurisdiction on this earth stretches as much as the chariot can go on wheels. Eastern countries like Sindhu, Sauvira, and Saurashtra. So he takes the Saurashtra's name in Ramayana. He says that my jurisdiction enters up to the east in Saurashtra, as well as countries in the south, Vanga, Anga, Magadha, and Matsya, and Kashi and Kaushala. Has anybody in this kingdom made anything wrong to you? No answer from Kaikeyi. She is not even responding, right? And then he's saying, ask me anything. This is a great time when Rama is going to get coronated and you are sleeping here like this. This is not right. Why don't you get up? Again, she does not speak a word. Then Dasharatha understands maybe she wants something because he knows her past. Every time she wants something, she will be very stubborn and she will act in such a way. So he gives the promise again to Kaikeyi and he says, Avilapte na janasi tvatta priyataro mama manujo manuja vyaghra dramandeo na vidyate tena japyena mukhyena ragavena mahatmana shape त जीवना हरने ब्रूहि यन्मे yechasi shape. He gives the shapat. He gives the vow again, Dasharatha. He says, "O proud woman, don't you know that there is nobody on this earth more dearer to me than you except Rama, the best amongst men?" Now he is actually speaking to Kaikeyi and saying, "I will give you, I will give you, I will give you." She does not even listen. At the last end, Dasharatha says, Rama cannot be defeated by enemies. He is a very important person in our family. He is the supporter of life and high soul of mine. I take oath by him. मैं रामा को सच रखकर मैं बताता हूँ. I shall give you what you desire. This is the time when Dasharatha says, Rama is everything to me. He is the apple of my eye, and I am going to vow and give you. Tell me what you want. At that time, Kaikeyi gets up to ensure that Dasharatha is going to sleep forever. This is what Acharya says. When Kaikeyi gets up, that means Dasharatha knows he is going to go to sleep. And Kaikeyi says, she asks the boon. She says, look, I don't want to create a big scene out here. I am very angry. I will make it very plain and simple for you. I'm going to speak two verses, which will be very clear for you that what I want. Dasharatha is listening with his heart in his mouth. What is he going to ask? She says, Abhisheka Samarambho Ragavasyopakalpitaha Anai Anenai Vabhishekena Bharato me Vishyachatam. She says, all arrangements have been made for Rama, for him to be coronated. But instead of Rama, please replace the invitation card with my son Bharata's name, and he should become the king. This is my first boon. Dasharatha is not moving at all. I mean, he's hearing this, but he's not having any difficulty. So she immediately asks the second boon. Nava pancha chavarshani dandakaranyamashritah chirajina jatadari ramo bhavatu tapasaha. She says Rama has to take refuge in the forest of Dandaka for 14 years. Now, Valmiki puts a very interesting story here. He never says the word Chaturdasha or he never says 14. He says Nava Pancha Cha Varshani. Nava means 9, Pancha means 5. 9 plus 5, 14. Now, you might ask why Kaikeyi did not ask 14 directly. She wanted to give the shock slow and simple. Just like you put a needle into the banana, slowly she wanted to inject the poison. Because she knew that immediately if he said Rama has to go to forest for 14 years, before he says yes, done, he will die. So, in fact, she is giving the poison slowly. Nava Pancha Varshani, 9 years and extended 5 years. Put together 14 years. Rama has to go to the forest, and this is what I am desiring. Dasharatha, you have to give. Dasharatha is heartbroken. He says, Kaikeyi, what happened to that Kaikeyi? Yesterday evening, you were saying Rama is everything. You don't see a difference between Rama and Bharata. You said Rama is the ultimate person. He wins the world. Has he not won your heart? In fact, I have seen he has served Kausalya very less, but he has actually served you. Don't you think Rama is the greatest personality? Why don't you think if Bharata wants to become the king, I will allow Bharata to become the king. I have no problem, but please take back your second boon. He is the apple of my eye. I cannot imagine without staying with Rama. Don't you know how much we have trouble to get a person like Rama? Everybody loves Rama. He is the personified supreme personality, the most beautiful, who serves his spiritual master so nicely. He is the most valorous. That personality you think will do harm to you? How will I face Kausalya? How will the Ayodhya Vasis face you? What face you will show to Kausalya and the other queens? What face you will show to Rama, who has served you immaculately? Don't you think you are doing a great injustice? He cries, he falls on the floor, he crawls to her, but because her heart and mind is completely corrupted by mantra, she says nothing doing. Dasharatha, it seems like you are going back on your words. Don't you remember you are coming in the great line of succession of kings from Shibi Chakravarti? There was a king in your kingdom called a Shibi. When the eagle came following a pigeon, and the pigeon took surrender unto Shibi Chakravarti, and the eagle said, "It is my food. Give me back my food." Shibi said, "You want meat? I will give equivalent amount of meat from the pigeon from my thighs." He cut open his thighs and he gave the meat and he gave justice because he kept the word that he will give in response to whatever, not to allow the surrendered person go. Such a king was your ancestor, Shibi Chakravarti. Don't you know? He kept his word. Why are you not keeping the word? Forget about your ancestors, Dasharatha. Don't you know there was a king called as Alaka who comes in your jurisdiction only, the jurisdiction which all you told to me right now? He comes in that jurisdiction, this king called Alaka. When his Brahmana came into his kingdom and he said, "My grandfather lost his two eyes. I want the eyes." Alaka took a knife and took out his eye socket and gave it to the Brahmana. and his glories were known far and wide. He was also ready to give. Why can't you give your words? I am not asking your eye socket. I am not asking Rama himself. He seems like he's the apple of the eye, but I am not asking your eye. I am asking your apple of the eye, who is Rama. And don't you think there is another person who comes in your jurisdiction who is none other than Dadichi to kill Vrittasura when the when the demigods came and asked Dadichi for his weapon? He took all his bones, in fact, the spine and everything, and it was made into a weapon. That Dadichi kept his word and gave his own bodily skeleton to be made as a weapon. Don't you think you can give me words? When such words were spoken, Dasharatha was heartbroken. He did not know what to speak. Till this time, he was speaking very softly. Now we will see tomorrow how his tone changes entirely and what are the repercussions and how angrily Dasharatha is going to speak back to Kaikeyi, whether Kaikeyi will change her decision, whether Kaikeyi will go forward putting her decisions. Will Mantra succeed in her evil plan? Will Rama become the king? These all things we will see tomorrow. So I request you to be there tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. We will have a morning class, and then in the evening again at the same time 8:15 p.m. we will have the second class. Similarly, we will have two classes on Sunday as well. We will try to complete Ayodhya Kanda as much as possible. Thank you very much again for joining today and taking a precious time out to discuss and also to hear the glorifications of Lord Ramchandra in the Ayodhya Kanda. Mangalashasanaprai Madacharya Purogame Sarvai Acharyai Satkృతాయాస్తు Mangalam. If there are any questions or comments, we can discuss. If you're watching this on YouTube, please put your questions on YouTube comments. I will try my level best to answer them. Hare Krishna.